Let me explain to you how to set up payroll for your small business. In today's conversation, I really want to explain to you step by step and in very simple forms, with simple language. How do you set up payroll for your business? So here's an overview I want you to pay attention to. Before we actually get into the steps in when it comes to setting up your payroll, let me explain to you what payroll really is. I mean, you might have heard the word. You probably have maybe a rough idea of what payroll really is, but payroll in general has a very technical. It have a very legal implications. And in some cases, it has tax implications. So you got to have a clear idea what payroll really is, so that you can cover, you can actually cover your butt, so to speak, when it comes to business assets and personal assets, for that matter. So it's all about compliance, because when you hire other people and you have to pay taxes, you have to actually file all kinds of benefits for your employees. So it really pays to understand what payroll really is. Okay. So what is payroll? Payroll is basically a process for managing all payments to your employees. So it includes the full names of your employees, their salaries, plus employee compensation information, your payment schedule, and payroll tax returns. So in some cases, depending upon the size of your business and the benefits you're offering your employees, the payroll process might also encompass, if you will, benefits information and benefits administration. And every small business needs payroll to help them disperse salary payouts on time, handle tax filing, and keep their books in order. So you have this trifecta here. So we're talking about what? Disbursing salary payments on time. So you have liquidity. You got to handle tax filing. So we have regulatory compliance here, and then keep your books in order. So basically financial management. So financial management is kind of cool, because if you were to get a business loan, for instance, a lender might ask you to provide financial statements. So if your financial books are in order, to be able to provide your financial statements, your balance sheets, your income statements, your cash flow statements, and your owner's equity statements real fast. So this is kind of important. Now, payroll might seem complex at first, but if you take the steps that I'm going to give you into this conversation, you can do it yourself, not a problem. Boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. The first thing you want to do here is that, let me give you the steps. First thing is, you need to understand the state and federal employment laws. Very important, okay? Now, the payroll process begins with understanding various states and local laws that apply to small businesses. But before you set up payroll for your company, you need to get familiar with relevant laws in the US. And the thing is that, states are so different. If your company really operates in multiple states, you need to get a clear understanding of the rules in all states where your company is present, or where you have employees, okay? And different federal and state regulations apply in this case, such as the minimum wage laws, employment tax rates, and the Family and Medical Leave Act, okay? And so an excellent place to start is actually the U.S. Department of Labor website. And there you can access different resources to help you understand and comply with the federal employment laws. And you also need to know the payroll rules regulating local businesses in your states. So what you want to do is, first of all, you want to go to the Department of Labor's website. That's the federal level. You also want to go to your state's labor department's websites. And also you want to actually, so there are three departments at the federal level, and at the state level you want to pay attention to: revenue, labor, and the third one is, you want to anything that revolves around employee administration, employee management, or labor management, so to speak. And you want to do this at the federal level and state level for each state in which your business operates. In other words, let's say you have employees in Georgia, you have employees in Ohio, you have employees in New York. And what you want to do is, not only you want to learn about the rules at the federal level, but you also want to learn about the rules in Georgia, the rules in Ohio, and the rules in New York. So because see, the whole thing is that even though you are running a business from one state, you are still considered a foreign corporation or a foreign LLC in other states. So you still need to apply to actually comply with the rules in those states. Also, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about how to set up payroll for your small business. So, step number one, understand the state and federal employment rules, right? Step number two, you need to decide on a payroll schedule. So, when we talk about payroll schedule, I mean, this is important. Now, you might be thinking, well, it's nothing complicated. It can be as simple as you actually marking your calendar, so to speak. So, a payroll schedule is a calendar that shows how often a business remunerates its employees, in other words, pays its employees. So, while some small companies pay their employees within a weekly or bi weekly pay period, others choose to make direct disbursements on a semi monthly or monthly basis. And so, it's one of those things where you got to really have a clear idea about your liquidity situation, too, because if you're paying employees there every week, does that timing situation match your cash inflows? Because payroll actually involves cash outflows, so you want to make sure that you match cash inflows and cash outflows. Okay, it would be really best if you did not choose the payroll schedule off the top of your head. First, go through the relevant laws. Are there any specific regulations dictating how often you can pay your employees? Another thing to consider here is your business cash flow. If the bulk of cash inflow happens at the end of the month, you would consider filing a monthly payroll schedule. And the thing here is that many states and federal income tax laws frown against the late salary payments. So be sure to choose a pay period you can easily keep up with. See, the whole thing is when you choose a pay period, it's not just about something you are going to do within 6 months or 3 months. It's something that hopefully you are going to keep for a longer time. So it's one of those things where you need to think about your cash inflows. Now, based on our research, a lot of small business owners they actually get a business line of credit to actually sort of offset their like the disparities between their inflows and outflows. So you just go to a bank, you got a business loan or a business line of credit, so you can tap into that pool of funds to pay your employees, and not have to wait for customers to pay you first, because customers they take their time too. I mean, if you have your customers on 30, that means they have at least 30 days to pay you. The third thing you want to do here is to draft a payroll policy. Now, you might be saying, well, I'm a small business, I'm a micro business. Do I need a policy? Not really. You do not need a policy. You need a policy for yourself. By law, you don't need a policy, a payroll policy, but a payroll policy really further legitimizes your business. It really brings think of it this way. It adds an extra layer of legitimacy to your business. People will be looking at your business and thinking, "Oh, this is a legit business." And so, after fixing a pay period for your business, you should create a payroll policy or employee handbook. An employee handbook is a formal document that spells out the different guidelines for managing business payroll, including the payroll schedule, employee benefits, and actually a payroll method. So, drafting a payroll policy is one of the essential steps in this setup because it helps business owners avoid several liabilities. And payrolls impact employees directly, so they need to have first-hand information about how the business plans to manage the process and if their benefits are affected in any way. And so a detailed employee handbook helps companies to process payroll effectively. So if you're listening to me right now and you're thinking about having like setting up payroll for your small business, it doesn't matter how big or small your small business is. Like, are we talking about a micro business, or are we talking about a one-person business, or are we talking about a business that has fewer than 50 employees? So no matter the size of your business, you need to have like you don't need to have a policy, but it really helps. It really helps to clarify things for yourself and for your employees. And a payroll policy is not a legal agreement between a business and its employees. So, again, it doesn't have to read like one. You want to ask an employment law experts to review the documents and make sure everything is in place before sharing it with your workers. See, everything revolves around trust, right? If your employees trust you, if your employees trust you as an employer chances are they will stay. But see, always starts with clarity, with transparency. So you want to share the file with them, with your employees, to make sure they're all comfortable with it. Also, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about how to set up payroll for your small business. The next thing you want to do here is to apply for your EIN. See, the whole thing is that people think about EIN only when it comes to opening a bank account or when it comes to getting business credit. But if you are going to take care of payroll, everything starts from there. Okay, everything starts from like the very first process that will sort of trigger you to apply for an EIN is setting up, if you have to set up your payroll. So as a small business, you already have a social security number for filing your taxes. However, you need an EIN for processing payrolls, and companies can apply for an EIN on the U.S. Internal Revenue Service rather, on the IRS websites. And what happens here is that if so, once you get an EIN from the IRS, you can start using it right away. One thing I want to say here also is that it's really important to understand that you have the ability to do things a little differently, depending upon depending upon the industry you're in, depending upon the state you're in, because some states want to use the EIN that the IRS sent to you. This is kind of important. Now the IRS will they will approve your EIN within minutes. It doesn't take that long. You don't have to actually pay a third party to apply for your business's EIN. So you can do it yourself. You go to the IRS website, you fill out the paperwork, and they will send you. One thing I need to say also is that the Internal Revenue Service will be looking at your EIN. Now there are some scenarios where you might need to change your EIN, or you might need to modify or even amend your some scenarios. We're having an upcoming show about that, so we'll explain to you that. But one thing I want to say here is that once an EIN is assigned to you, it becomes your employer tax ID, and you can use it when filing any business tax forms. And even if you're not setting up payroll immediately, you will still need to have an EIN for different transactions, and this is really important. So depending on the tax laws in your state, you may have to file state income taxes for your employers too. In this case, you need to apply for state withholding and unemployment tax accounts. Some local governments assign separate ID numbers to businesses for payroll tax filing. So find out if these terms apply to you. The next thing you want to do here is to choose a payroll administrator for your business. And this is important. Now, administrating payroll is a lot of work. And again, I don't care if you have 5 employees or 50 employees, it's a lot of work, because not only you have to administer the money you pay to them, but also the taxes and also the benefits. Okay? So payroll is not just about the money, it's also about the benefits. So many small business owners find it challenging to juggle this process with their day-to-day responsibilities. So you can actually assign this task to someone you trust in-house, outsource. You can outsource the whole process to an accounting and bookkeeping service, or use payroll software like Gusto or Wave. It really depends on you. And so what you want to do is, before you actually go either way, before you actually choose one option, it's just better that you weigh the pros and cons of each option before making a choice. Okay. For instance, an online payroll processing platform will automate most of the tasks for you, so you can have more time on your hands. Alternatively, payroll service providers are quite expensive, but they can actually handle all processes with little or no input from you, the small business owner. So the bottom line here is that depending upon your business, depending upon your state you're in, depending upon the industry you're in, because some industries are a lot favorable to having third parties handle everything for them when it comes to payroll, and other businesses want to do things themselves. So if you happen to be in an industry where they want you to do yourself, then you might have to make sure that you maybe choose a physical, you might have to choose a company that's physically actually located in your state. Also, one thing I want to talk about is that when we talk about payroll administrator, we're talking about someone It can be one person or it can be an entity that you really trust with your money, right? It's one of those things where you never know. You just want to make sure the money's not going to disappear tomorrow. So that's why we tell our clients once again to actually set up payroll with a reputable bank, right? So I'm talking here about the Citi, the Morgan Chase, the Wells Fargo, the PNC, so the so on and so forth. And the last thing you want to do is you want to sort out the employee paperwork, right? It's one of those things where when we talk about sorting out the employee paperwork, we're speaking about stuff that has regulatory implications, stuff that has fiscal implications. So to complete the payroll setup, as an employer, you need to collect some details from new hires and update the payroll information of existing employees. So, and those pieces of information are kind of important, and they might, like, failure to comply might invite crazily high penalties and fines, not only at the state level but also at the federal level. To complete the payroll, to so the pieces I'm just talking about, the pieces of information here, they include a completed W-4 form to know how much federal income tax you should deduct from the employee's paycheck on payday. You might need to have a completed Form I-9 to ensure the employee is legally authorized to work in the United States. So here, your employees need to provide a formal means of identification. You should keep copies of those documents. You also need to like, depending upon the sector you're in, you basically might need to conduct social security verification, so to avoid name and SSN mismatches. So the social security number verification service is free of charge, and you just have to as an employer, you just have to register to use it. Okay, and so depending on the local laws in your state, you may have to file new hire paperwork with the relevant authorities. The thing here is that it's all like, if you want to always be ahead of the competition, make sure that you know the rules and not just hire a third party to do it. The bottom line here is you need to also understand that there are certain things you could do, and there are certain things it's just better for you to outsource. That way you can save more time. You can really focus on like what really matters in your business, how to really generate revenue, and especially when we talk about scalability. Because see, the thing is that when you set up payroll, this is not a static thing. I mean, you might need to actually improve the payroll process from time to time. You might need to revisit certain areas and see what works, what doesn't work. So it's one of those things where you got to always think about what's next. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I just explained to you how to set up payroll for your small business. So I give you the overview of the whole payroll conversation, and then I give you the steps. Understand the state and federal employment laws, decide on a payroll schedule, draft a payroll policy, apply for your EIN, choose a payroll administrator, and sort out the employee paperwork. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.